Richard Lynch is a Waynesville, Ohio-based country music artist who has compiled a long list of country hits and chart toppers in the world of traditional country music. And he's just joined us here now. Hello.
Hello, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. How are you today?
I am doing really good. It's this sunny day here back in Waynesville, Ohio. The sun's out, nice and warm. It's an awful good day.
Yeah, and you've got a current release out. It's called He'll Make Everything All Right. What is the premise behind that song?
Well, I just kept hearing so much, negativity around the social network and on television and all the news. And, I decided, I'm going to give a little different perspective on how I see things. Everybody has their own opinion on what, their political status is. So I just wanted to have something that everybody can hopefully agree with, that the man upstairs has got it under control. And no matter what happens, if we believe, he'll make sure everything is all right.
For sure. How long did it take you to come up with the song?
About 20 minutes.
Is that including all the lyrics or just the kind of basic idea?
The whole song. I wrote it all in about 20 minutes one morning.
Wow, that is quite impressive stuff. And to record it, was that also a quick process for you?
Well, we had when we got in the studio, we recorded it there in Nashville. And, we work with some of the most incredible, talented musicians in the world down there. And, they make things really, really simple for everybody. But, in all honesty, we had the whole song, even in Nashville, recorded about half hour or maybe 40 minutes, and we were done with it.
Wow. Now, how did you first start to get into music? What was it that kicked it all off for you?
Well, I was born in a country music household, and by that I mean my dad was an incredible singer, entertainer. He was pretty well renowned and known around our tri-state area, Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. And I remember as a young age how I just loved that traditional music.
Yeah.
And my dad would be sitting there drinking coffee there at the kitchen table, and some of my earliest memories, he'd be having the old radio on there, and they're growing up, and that they would be playing all those traditional songs of that era. And I guess I knew at a pretty young age that's something that I really wanted to do. Yeah.
And did you know that it was that type you wanted to make, or did you experiment with all sorts?
Well, I played full time in the 80s and 90s, 6 nights a week in all the honky tonks and bars. And so, I always had my heart with the traditional country. But if you're going to play all those clubs and so forth, you had to play a little bit of Southern rock and some dance music in order to keep the whole crowd, satisfied. But I never ever lost interest in that traditional sound. And that's always my first love, and I will always continue to keep performing that traditional country music.
For sure. So, talking about doing stuff in the 80s and 90s, it's fair to say that you've been in music for a decent amount of time. Can you pick out one or two highlights from your whole time?
Well, if I have to narrow it down, I remember doing a lot of the opening act for a lot of the big stars, in the 80s, 90s, and even in the early 2000s. And probably the most thrilled I ever was, a band called Shenandoah. They had huge country hits back in the 80s and early 90s. And they had a song called 2 Dozen Roses. And the day that I got to do a show with them, that song had went to #1, and they had 11,000 people in their concert that evening. And I was lucky enough to be the opening act. And so that was a pretty big highlight for me because of, the volume of people and how well Shenandoah treated us. They was very inclusive with us. It was a pretty magic evening. Now I've had several of those wonderful evenings over the years. But that was probably the first time that I really got that big sense of, wow, we're really doing something well with this music business. That was the first time I really felt like overwhelmed by the crowd. You know, it was pretty entertaining.
For sure. And in the not too distant future, have you got any more albums coming out or more tunes?
Oh, you bet. I'm always writing new songs, and it just so happens that this week I will be back in the studio in Nashville. We're doing our last 6-song session that will finish the 12 songs on our new up-and-coming album, and it will be released early 2021.
Nice.
So I'm really excited about that album coming out. And I wrote all the songs on that album, and I wrote all the songs on the current album now. So there's a
wow.
You know, it's really gratifying that I can be you know, not only doing great music, but it's really gratifying that I can say I actually wrote the music that I'm doing. So it's really wonderful to be finally in a position where I'm able to do that.
For sure. Hopefully shortly, do you think that you'll be back on the live circuit playing gigs if COVID permits?
Well, if everything goes right and we can get rid of this crazy virus, we have a lot of folks that's contacting us wanting to be part of festivals and the fairs and the theaters and the events around the country. And we've even had some folks reach out to us from Australia that they'd like for us to be booked in the very near future. Now, that all depends on the this coronavirus, if we can get a handle on it. And if we get a vaccine, I think that would really be wonderful for the musicians out there. They could kind of start planning and booking things again.
Yeah, hopefully it all goes away shortly. We can hope, and we can
absolutely,
even if it isn't eradicated completely,
absolutely,
we can still have mitigation in place at gigs, I suppose.
You're so right.
How's it been for you during the whole thing? Have you been disappointed not having the chance to play gigs, or have you seen it more as an opportunity to write and record at home?
Well, we've been very fortunate. We've done 5 shows since the outbreak. So since the 1st of March, we've actually done 5 shows. I know a lot of folks that hasn't done anything. So we were fortunate enough to where we could be involved around a few gigs. And so but it sure makes you appreciate the good times when we were playing all the time. It just give us a little bit of a chance to sing and knock the rust off the vocal cords and and try to be, try to keep that, that polished sound up and going. Because like anything else, music, you need to be rehearsed, and you need to be, enjoying that time with the band members. And I've got a wonderful band that, it's just wonderful guys to play with, and they love the music, so it's nice when we get to play once in a while.
For sure. And what would you say makes your music unique compared to a lot of other country artists?
Well, I really believe that a lot of newer music has left emotion out of the music, and I'm a firm believer that music should have raw emotion, whether it's happy or sad, or whether you're dealing with a situation, or if there's some kind of a story that needs to be told. I think the emotion should be put back into country music. And I'm doing my share, I'm doing my part, that whenever you hear a Richard Lynch song, that you can feel that emotion. And I've had people tell me, Richard, I've heard your song, and it's almost like you wrote that song for me.
Yeah.
And that's what a wonderful compliment to hear that from people.
Incredible.
But I really want to be able to, capture that emotion of the music and let it be felt and heard in the country music, because I think that's what's really missing in a lot of the newer music today.
For sure. Well, where are we able to check out your music online and everywhere else?
Well, the best place to go is just richardlynchband.com, and you'll see us on all the social networks, all the music places, Spotify, and on and on and on. But Richard Lynch Band is the way to find our music and all the things you want to know about us.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Richard.
Well, thanks for having me, and I hope we get to cross paths again.